Hello Internet, it's me Josh, the Aging Gamer. So, let's go ahead and continue our Halloween-themed celebration this month by talking about another classic horror-themed video game. This time we're talking about a gem from the Castlevania series. Super Castlevania 4? Symphony of the Night? Rondo of Blood? No, we're talking about Kid Dracula. Yeah, Kid Dracula. Kid Dracula is, well, probably the least popular title in the Castlevania series, but that's probably because it's hardly a Castlevania title at all. It's more of a parody-type game, kind of like Splatterhouse Bumpaku Graffiti was to Splatterhouse. And like that title, the parody game was released on the Famicom and never left Japan. Well, until 2019. So what is Kid Dracula exactly? It's an interesting game is what it is. How does it relate to Castlevania? Is it good? Let's find out. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Kid Dracula for the Nintendo Famicom. So first and foremost, who is Kid Dracula? Well, by the name you'd assume it's Dracula as a kid, but that's not the case. He's actually detailed as the son of Dracula, and we all know who that is, right? Yeah, Alucard. However, this has never been confirmed or denied. Considering this game came out in 1990, a year after Alucard's debut, you'd think he'd resemble that version a bit more. Well, it seems like the Alucard we know today might have actually taken inspiration from the Kid Dracula model. Not only do they have the same father, similar powers, and hair color, but also bosses. The final boss of Kid Dracula is King Galamoth, who also happens to be a secret boss in Symphony of the Night, where the main character is Alucard. So is Symphony of the Night paying homage to Kid Dracula, or is it all coincidence? Well, if you ask me, I think Kid Dracula is totally the kid version of Alucard, but before anyone gets up in arms, Kid Dracula is non-canon, so I guess it doesn't even matter. Even though he totally is. So anyway, in this game, which translated is Demon Castle Special I'm Kid Dracula, the self-proclaimed Demon King, awakens from a long sleep and finds out that the evil Galamoth has challenged him. So, Kid Dracula goes on his merry way to go kick Galamoth's ass and prove why he's the king. At least that's the gist of the story. I can't read Japanese, so I'm going to be playing a loosely translated version of the game. There's not that much text in the game, so I think I should be good. So Kid Dracula rises from his casket. Look how adorable he is. So we can jump and we can shoot fireballs. Hold down the attack button and you can shoot a strong fire attack. When attacking enemies, shoot to kill. However, if you kill them with a charged attack, they'll drop a coin. Collect coins and, well, we'll get to that later. I love this level here. For any fans of the original Castlevania trilogy, there's a lot of references here. From the backgrounds, to the tiles, even the clock pendulum. And here, we all know this iconic location from the series. But anyway, this game is a straightforward 2D platformer. Defeat the enemies in your way as you make your way towards the end. We got some typical enemies here too, like bats, zombies, and knights. There's also these ones called Frankenpunks. We'll soon get to our first boss, this little kid mage. Well, in the Japanese version, he's supposed to be a mage, but in the US, they were retconned into being Ghost. But blast it with fire a few times, and he runs away. Aww. Oh, and here comes, Okay, I know what we're all thinking here. That looks like a dude wearing a KKK robe with a swastika on his head. But that is indeed a ghost, or a mage, with an ancient universal sign of luck and prosperity on its head. In this case, it could be a sign of creation, or it could even be a family crest. Not a sign of evil. But with that said, let's go ahead and kill this guy anyway, because we have to. You don't actually kill the boss though. Instead, you cause them to run away crying. Still a satisfying feeling. Afterwards, we get our first power-up, the Seeker Shot. What kind of looks like a cool spread shot is actually a bunch of little homing shots, and it's super useful. And after every level, well, the first 5 anyway, you'll get a cool power-up, like the Freeze Shot, the Strong Bomb Shot, the Anti-Gravity Technique, and of course, the ability to turn into a bat. In terms of levels, after the first stage, it gets a lot less Castlevania-like and starts following more typical video game tropes. Like you'll play an ice level, a water level, a desert level, and things like that. Let's do a quick overview of them. The second level is a sky level. You jump around shooting at giant birds and pantless witches. There's a cool roller coaster section which is unique, but at the same time can be very cheap. The boss here is a giant chicken. I haven't played all the Castlevania games, but is this chicken relevant to the series in any sort of way? I have no idea. The third level is mostly underwater, and not the swimming kind of water level, but the floaty jumps kind of water level. There's not much to it other than jumping around and dealing with hazards. One thing I'd like to point out is that I found it kind of funny that there's all these crazy monster enemies, but in this level, one of them is just your standard swimmer. He's just doing backstrokes underwater. Our boss here is a jellyfish in a giant bubble. Just avoid the bubble and shoot. In the following ice level, we slip around, as you would expect. The hardest part is trying to fly around this spiky area as a bat. These spikes are one-hit KOs, and even just rubbing up to the side of them will kill you. It doesn't help that in bat form you drift, so you have to steady yourself enough to make it through. Ugh. There's also some standard enemies that not that you'd expect, but you wouldn't be surprised to see. A seal with a ball? Sure. A figure skater? Why not? A snowman? Actually, this guy looks familiar. Wasn't the snowman in another game? Wait, yeah, these are the snowmen from Kirby! You sons of bitches! Anyway, the boss here is a water dragon called Rahab, who is also a boss in Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow. Avoid while using homing charge attacks, and it'll be a piece of cake. In the next level, we're in New York, USA. How do I know this? Well, there's 4 reasons. Well, 4 enemies that give it away. The first one is this gorilla that throws airplanes, an obvious King Kong reference, which, yeah, King Kong took place in New York. The second enemy. Well, you tell me who you think this is. Who else lives in New York, climbs buildings, jumps around, and has a ridiculous costume like that? Yeah, that's Spider-Man. He's fully blue, but there's no doubt that's Spider-Man. Spider-Man is officially part of Castlevania lore. That's crazy! Just as crazy as the third person I'm about to list. Jason fucking Voorhees. Yeah, the supernatural serial killer. For those wondering what Jason Voorhees has to do with New York, a year prior to this game's release, a movie called Friday the 13th Part 8 Jason Takes Manhattan was released. And the last enemy that proves that this game takes place in New York, and I probably could have just did this one alone, it's actually the final boss of the stage. It is Lady Liberty herself. And you don't actually fight her. In true American fashion, you settle it in a live TV game show. What? So the battle is less of a fight and it's actually a questionnaire. It's you against the kid ghost from earlier and a chicken. Let's play and answer the Statue of Liberty's questions. Where do I live? USA. Duh. Where do I come from? France, of course. Huh? Uh-oh. This part of the game wasn't translated in the version I'm playing. I'll just guess. Success! The 6th level is a desert stage. There's spikes and shit, and we have a boss with King Tut. The next stage is actually pretty tricky. You're in a space tube, going up, and you gotta jump platform to platform to survive. If you make it to the top, you'll fight Galamoth. Oh shit! He jumps around shooting fire. I focus on avoiding him and his attacks while slowly killing him with the homing shots. After you defeat him, he declares he'll return. Now we got 2 more levels. The next one has us jumping flying pirate ship to flying pirate ship. There's a giant laser to avoid, and the final boss is a giant robot. Use anti-gravity to destroy it. And now for the final level. It's essentially 3 boss fights. The first is this fire dragon lion creature. Only ice attacks can hurt him. After that, we fight this giant robot that, no joke, in the US is called Phyllis Driller. Oh my. Phyllis will drop down on you. Just move as far out as you can and shoot. After this boss, we get our rematch against Galamoth in his most powerful form. He flies around using lasers, and he'll shoot lightning at you. You can only hurt him by shooting his face when his mouth is open. So try to get underneath him, shoot, and be careful. Keep damaging him and you'll eventually win. Afterwards, you chill on your throne and call it a day. And that's Kid Dracula. So, how is it? It's actually a really fun little title. Playing as little Alucard, having fun different attacks with unique and out there bosses, it's great. The boss fights in the game have a pretty decent challenge, but the real challenge is in the platforming itself. Some of these levels can be pretty brutal, but the game is so charming, I can't help but have a good time. And if you feel like you're losing too many lives, it's actually super easy to gain more of them. So I mentioned collecting coins earlier. At the end of each level, you go to a bonus round. You first play a little mini game to play one of 4 different 1-up opportunity games. The more coins you have, the more times you can play. There's one mini game where you must place swords in a barrel without harming a skeleton. There's also this one where you must move the D-pad to spin this contraption around and you'll gain extra lives depending on what colored ball comes out. There's also this game where I'm not sure what's happening exactly since the translation is off, but I think you have to guess the color of the underwear they're wearing. And there's also this mini game where it's just straight up gambling. Since it's so easy to farm for coins, you can play these mini games as much as you need to. Overall, this game is really fun and I don't have anything negative to say about it. But those are just my opinions. And you know what, since I'm talking about this game, let's go ahead and talk about its Game Boy counterpart. Let's go for a 2-for-1 retro review here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Kid Dracula for the Nintendo Game Boy. So this originally was the only Kid Dracula game that made it stateside. Released on the Game Boy in 1993, this was a sequel, and yet kind of a remake of the first game. Kid Dracula is informed that Galamoth has returned. When confronted about using the spells he learned from the last game, Kid Dracula admits he just kind of forgot them. And I think that's a good enough premise to learn them again slowly but surely. We'll go through very similar levels as the first title, and like that game, we'll learn those new skills after every level we beat. The first level boss even sees the return of the Ghost family, this time called the Ghost of Halloween. You fight the future, the present, and even the past here. The giant robot and flying chicken also make their returns. The boss of the second level sees the return of this world's Jason Voorhees. He pops out of his wooden cabin and starts attacking with his axe. And then he jumps on the roof and starts shooting us with his shotgun. It's bizarre. Some of the Famicom levels return, like the roller coaster level, the jumping space tube level, and the flying pirate ship level. It's not a complete remake though, as we got some new levels here too, like this fire level that's got, well, fire shooting everywhere. There's also this block level where you have to strategically shoot blocks out of your way to pass. Even the boss requires you to drop blocks on him. Another new level which I find the most aggravating is this one that has you shooting up these conveyor belts, but you have to avoid spikes at the top. It's hard and frustrating. The game also has a few new power-ups. We don't get the ice attack from the first game, but we do get the bat attack, which sees a bat kind of circle around you. You also get your father's umbrella. Yeah, Dracula's umbrella, that lets you block certain attacks and plows right through enemies. It's unique. So if you played the first game, you'll know exactly how to play this game here. I think it's worth mentioning too that I feel the Game Boy game is a lot more challenging. Still fun, but way harder obstacles to overcome. All in all, the game is pretty good, and in terms of quality, I'd rate it about the same as the first game. Both Kid Dracula games are worth checking out. They're fun, quirky little titles that got a lot of personality with really solid gameplay. By no means are these games breaking any new grounds, nor do they play anything like the Castlevania games they're based upon, but they're great game experiences that any fan of either the NES or Game Boy should check out. But those are just my opinions. What do you guys think? What do you think of Kid Dracula? You love it? You hate it? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a like. If you want, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. And you know what? I thank you guys for watching this, and I'll see you all on the next one.
アクションゲーム悪魔城スペシャル僕ドラキュラ君ファミコンソフトでもうすぐ発売。トナミ